What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Packers Latest. I'm your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news of the green and gold Green Bay Packers. That latest news, a win over the Chicago Bears on Sunday, America's Game of the Week, a 28-21 win to boost Green Bay into first place in the NFC North. If you're new to the channel, I welcome you. Feel free to subscribe, leave a like, turn on a notification bell if you want to join the community of fans of the green and gold Green Bay Packers. If you're not new, you're coming back for another episode, I welcome you back. Feel free to leave a comment as well, anything you saw in that game, anything that you want to see, in the next game against the Denver Broncos, some positives, some negatives. There's a lot to talk about, and we are going to break that down right now. Starting off with our head coach, Matt LaFleur. He improves to 21-4 in the month of December. My gosh, what a record that is. LaFleur has been very good at getting the Packers on track when he needs to the most in the late stretch of the season. Once again, 21-4 in games in December. Want to give a big credit with him, which I feel like is going to get forgotten in this game since there were so many factors that happened to get this win. LaFleur had two challenges in this game and won them both, and he got rewarded with a third because he won both challenges. That is something a great coach does. LaFleur has had challenge issues in the past, but it feels like he's really fixed that, challenging at the right time, and it was definitely a big factor in this one. So got to give him the credit where credit is due outside of the record, show the many things that worked there. Packers also with a 14-3 lead entering halftime. LaFleur playing aggressive at the end of the second half and getting a touchdown because this game felt like Green Bay was dominating in the first half, but it looked like it was going to be 7-3 entering the locker room, which would not be too satisfying with how much it felt like Green Bay dominated, but LaFleur got aggressive with the play calling and gave the Packers that 14-3 lead at halftime, which really helped them get that overall win of 28-21. But who's the guy that led the Packers in this win? Well, nonetheless, it was Jordan Love and Toyotathon, baby. This thing is real. It's not a myth anymore. It's been real, but it keeps getting better. Jordan Love now holds a 36-2 touchdown to ratio in Toyotathon. He did have an interception in this game early on, but after that made some incredible adjustments and was, again, a huge reason why Green Bay came away with a win. You look at Toyotathon as a whole, in addition to those 36 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, he has 4,239 yards. He is slinging that football. And like I said, he had that early interception, a not even arguably, a definitely bad interception. It was not pretty. 3rd and 17. He kind of was trying to force one to Matthew Golden, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson picked him off. But after that, Jordan Love with a very big lock-in. The Packers got themselves back on their feet after not scoring any points in the first quarter and scored 14 in that second quarter, 7 in the third, and 7 in the fourth. On the game as a whole, Jordan Love finished 17 of 25, 234 yards with 3 touchdowns and that 1 interception. You look at his 3 touchdowns, I think this is a very big thing. It really shows how he's airing it out. First touchdown went for 23 yards to Christian Watson with only 2 yards after catch, so that was 21 yards in the air. The next one to Bo Melton, a 45-yard touchdown, just 1 yard after the catch, which made it 44 yards in the air. And then his third touchdown to Christian Watson. This one, you give all the credit to Watson. This was 34 yards after catch for a total of a 41-yard touchdown. But Love is not just throwing dump passes. He is really letting the ball fly. I mean, once again, 17 completions going for 234 yards. So Jordan Love doing what he does best, slinging the ball. He had a lot of deep shots in this one, not all of them connected. He almost had one to Romeo Doubs as well. But Jordan Love having a very, very good game, continuing his Toyotathon stretch, continuing Matt LaFleur's strong streak in December, and everything is clicking for the Green Bay Packers, who are on a 4-game winning streak. But what else is clicking? Who else is clicking? You got to go to Christian Watson. He collected 2 touchdowns in the win, and he continues to shine. Christian Watson, it shows how important he is as a piece and what Green Bay has been missing most of this season. He is truly looking like that high-level draft pick that Green Bay got when they selected him in the NFL draft. We're just waiting for that breakthrough. We've seen it. We saw it in that game against Dallas when Rodgers was with Green Bay. Saw all these many sparks, but now it's starting to feel consistent. Christian Watson, 4 catches, 87 yards, and 2 touchdowns in this one. Like I said, when reading Love's touchdowns, that first one, 23 yards, with 2 yards after the catch. That one went to Watson. And then that 41-yarder where he had 34 yards after the catch. On that 41-yarder, Christian Watson catching a slant across the middle and taking off like a jet. He reached 21.6 miles per hour on that touchdown per Next Gen Stats. That dude was absolutely flying. But this is such a big thing. This is why I put Watson's segment in the show after Love, because with Watson back, Love can air it out more, the field can spread out more, and you see it's all clicking. We go back to that game against Detroit. They don't win that game against Detroit without Christian Watson, especially that deep touchdown on the right side of the field. And you look at this game, he had 2 touchdowns, 4 catches, 89 yards. Christian Watson, if he's not in there, they probably don't win it again. So you just see Watson has really been a big reason why the Packers won their last 2 games. And they're not just any 2 games against your division opponent, with this one having you overtake first place in the NFC North. Christian Watson has been huge. It's just so nice to see him back. He looks comfortable. You can tell he's healthy. He was a little cold. His face was definitely red in that cold Green Bay weather, but Christian Watson has just looked absolutely phenomenal. A very nice piece to have back. During this 4-game winning streak that Green Bay is on, Watson has 17 catches, 267 yards, which is good enough for 15.7 yards per catch and 5 touchdowns. I mean, this guy is getting the ball a lot. And like I said, once more, it is making Jordan Love air it out. Over 15 yards per catch. Christian Watson has been definitely the offensive X factor, not even the hidden gem. He is clearly the headline. He is the front cover of this Packers receiving core, and it is really nice to have him back. And got to give credit to the rest of the Packers receiving core. Jaden Reed came back in this game. He had 4 catches. Was really nice to see. Not everyone really got the football. Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden did not end up with a reception, but you had some other guys stepping up. Luke Musgrave had a solid game. He had what looked to be an incredible catch, but was overturned to incomplete. But everyone in that receiving core in the tight end room was just playing so well. It was a really clean game. Most of the incompletions were truly just, a throw that was off, or the one drop that maybe there's a couple more, but the only drop that I remember was when Musgrave absolutely, Superman for that football, and they just ended up calling it incomplete. So the receiving core as a whole, a very good game. Christian Watson, definitely the leader of the pack. We've talked a lot about the offense. We talked about LaFleur's record, but you don't get that record if you don't look at the defensive side of the ball. The defense, Keyshawn Nixon and crew stepped up huge in the fourth quarter, stepped up huge in this game overall. Were definitely some shaky moments, but they stepped up when it mattered most. Going to start off, before we get into Keyshawn Nixon, actually going to look at that linebacker duo of Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker. Quay Walker has missed the past couple of games battling that neck injury, but now this duo is back on the field, and they were dominant. They had 20 total tackles, 8 of them solo. So nice to see these 2 guys back on the field together. They helped huge in stopping the run. They're nice when they have to drop back in coverage, specifically Quay Walker, and a huge reason why Green Bay won this game 28-21. You move on to Keyshawn Nixon. He had that game-sealing interception on 4th and 1 for Chicago. Caleb Williams trying to roll out to his left, trying to float one kind of towards the left corner of the end zone, and Keyshawn Nixon says, no, you give me that. Nixon had kind of a crazy game himself. He had 2 penalties, both after the play. Things were chippy. It's Packers-Bears. But, Matt LaFleur's big on playing smart. Keyshawn Nixon getting involved in 2 scuffles, getting 2, as I'll call them, dumb penalties because it's just free yards for the Chicago Bears. But he made up for it. He also had a touchdown scored on him, but it also was one of the best passes I've seen from Caleb Williams. That short one to the right side of the end zone. It went right through Keyshawn Nixon's hands for a touchdown for Chicago. But you scratch that. That was in the past in that game. Keyshawn Nixon coming up with the biggest play of the game and definitely the hero for the Green Bay Packers on defense. You look at Caleb Williams on the game as a whole with Keyshawn Nixon and crew in the secondary. He was just 19 of 35, which is a 54.3% completion for only 186 yards, which averages out for 5.3 yards per completion. And he did have 2 touchdowns, but he did have that interception, which was the killer for Chicago to lose that game against Green Bay. Going more on the defensive line and still talking a little bit about the linebackers, Kingsley Enagbare had the 1 sack for Green Bay. They really did struggle taking Williams down because he is one heck of a runner. So only 1 sack in the game, but there were 6 total quarterback hits. 2 of them coming from Micah Parsons, who was chasing Caleb Williams down like crazy, did not get that sack that he wanted, but he was making things tough on Caleb. There can always be improvements in a defense, though. They stepped up overall, but you do look what Chicago did on the ground. I say Green Bay maintained them pretty well. There were definitely some flashes of, man, Chicago's just running straight through them, but this is the second best rushing offense in yards per game in the NFL. They averaged 153.8 entering this game. They ended up with 138, so below their average yards per game on the ground. Green Bay still allowing 138 as a whole, though, but you really get into those numbers. That was on 32 total carries, so only allowing 4.3 yards per carry. Not the worst. The longest rush of the game was only 9 yards, but it did feel like there was that streak, especially in the second half, where Chicago was just getting about like 7-8 yards per rush. It just kind of felt like that, especially DeAndre Swift on a lot of third and shorts, second and shorts. Felt like he would get about 6 yards on those, but Green Bay did hold down when they needed most. Was really shocked on that 4th and 1, also on that interception from Keyshawn Nixon, that Chicago did not run there just because their rush attack was working so well and they only needed a yard, averaging, again, over 4 yards per carry. They decided to go for the pass. It was the wrong decision. It was the right decision if you're Green Bay because it got you the win. Before we close it out, got to look at where the Packers now sit. Like I said earlier in the episode, they now sit first in the NFC North with that 9-3-1 record. And you look at the NFC as a whole, they sit in second because the Los Angeles Rams are 10-3. If the playoffs started today, you know who's in 7th? The Chicago Bears. The Packers would take on the Chicago Bears in Lambeau again if the playoffs started today, but they don't. But it is definitely something that is fun to look at. But the Packers sit atop the NFC North nonetheless. That's all I got for this video today. Once again, a happy Victory Monday. A big game coming up next week against the Denver Broncos. That is the number 1 team in the AFC, sitting at 11-2. So you can call them the number 1 overall seed in the NFL. It's December. It's LaFleur season. It's winning season. Let's keep this winning streak alive. And as always, go Pack, go.